Hi, now, it's good to see all of you here today at 8:50 in the morning for News Behind the News. This is R.N. Bhaskar from BKBB, an acronym for Bhaskar Ki Business Baatein. This is a channel that comes to you with policy analysis, conversations, occasional business stories. But right now at 8:15 in the morning, we bring to you News Behind the News. We discuss titles, news items that we think should be discussed a little more. And today my co-anchors are Husaina, welcome, and Saloni, welcome to you too. And the three of us together are going to discuss the following titles as part of today's program. The first one is the Supreme Court asked the government to explain its agricultural import policy, especially for yellow peas, chana dal, pulses. The second is about how state governments bunch much of the Capex to April to August. And the third is how BEE, the Environmental Emissions Agency, has decided to focus more on larger vehicles and give a little bit of relief to the smaller vehicles. Anyway, let's start with the first story. In a remarkable way, farmers have approached the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has asked the government to explain the issue. The government wants to continue import of pulses, of yellow peas. In March this year, the government extended the import. It means the imports are going on before also. I remember 10 years ago, when the government began imports of pulses, this was done even after there was enough evidence that acreage had increased in India and the crops would be large. And even while the crops are yet to be harvested, the government began importing pulses. Somehow the government has a tendency to love imports of pulses from some countries. And remember, pulses is one area where especially some kinds of pulses like chana dal, like mung dal, which no other country uses. Mung dal no other country uses. That's grown specially for India by Canada and Myanmar. India has its favored traders in those countries, and the traders persuade governments to import their commodities. Now, this time the case is interesting. The farmers told the Supreme Court, please stop the government importing because the import prices are half the MSP prices. MSP prices are fixed by the government. Now, this raises two questions. If the MSP prices are X and imports are taking at half X, then it means the farmers are not viable at all. There's a second question, which, of course, I don't know whether the Supreme Court will ask the question. If in spite of subsidized fertilizer, subsidized seeds, free water, and many of the concessions to agriculture, why is it that India's prices are twice the imported prices? Now, this leads to only one or two conclusions. First, that the imports are taking place by countries which are dumping the goods at less than production costs, which means they're determined to destroy India's agriculture, and ministers and policymakers are allowing agriculture to be destroyed. Second, and more importantly, it means that India's agriculture may not be as efficient. Both these need to be tackled. But why is the government keen on importing? Look at the top 10 countries. It means it's a widely traded commodity, and India is not among the top 10 importers of pulses, of yellow peas. It means India has constantly been a large importer instead of giving a higher MSP to farmers and let them grow so that at least we don't have to depend on imports and the farmer becomes richer. I mean, here you have a government telling the USA, we will protect farmers' interests, and through the back door, you jeopardize farmers' interests. It doesn't make sense. Watch this judgment is going to have serious implications for government policy making. And that takes me to the second story, where Husaina talks about how most state governments bunch their capex to just 3 or 4 months. Husaina could come in.
Yes. So, a recent CAG report reveals that 20 Indian states have spent just 27% of their budgeted capital expenditure, which is Capex, for FY26 during the April to August period. Now, that is a modest improvement, which is 13.6% up year on year, but still far from ideal for an economy betting big on infrastructure led growth. And among the top performers, Telangana leads with 39.28% capex utilization, followed by Kerala, Haryana, and Madhya Pradesh. But here's the twist: Tripura and Chhattisgarh are at the bottom, spending a dismal amount of 6.53% and 11.02% respectively. West Bengal also stands out, but for the very wrong reason. It shows a sharp minus 28.31% year on year contraction in capital spending. Now, why does this matter? Because capital expenditure is the backbone of long term economic growth. Roads, schools, hospitals, power, infrastructure, etc. When states underperform on their capital expenditure, it signals either delays in project execution, inefficiencies in fund disbursement, or political recalibrations. 16 out of 20 states have spent less than 30% of their budgeted capex in 5 months, and that is where the issue lies. Moreover, even as capex growth is lagging, revenue expenditure SIR is up 8.7%, and tax revenue collection rose by 3.6%. Borrowings have doubled. Gujarat alone borrowed rupees 13,227 crore, which is nearly double from the last year. And again, states are increasingly relying on debt to meet expenses, raising concerns about future fiscal space. So the question is that is India's infrastructure first development narrative losing momentum at the state level? Analysts like Madhvi Arora from MK Global caution that a 30% growth in capex and 19% in revenue spending assumed by the center might be unrealistic. With mounting subsidy bills and limited rooms due to GST rate cuts, states could face a hard choice, which they had to cut back on their capital investment or risk breaching fiscal limits. What do you think so? Do you think that the states can bounce back?
Well, the states clearly have a penchant for revenue expenditure more than capex, which means the states are not visionary enough and the states are not taking care of long term planning. Now, this could be either a deliberate attempt to negotiate the terms at which capex should be spent, or it could be that the states are not bothered about capex, they're more concerned with revenue. But either way, it's a bad sign, and the states need to improve on this. Thanks, Susanna. Good one. And that takes me to the third story, which is about how BE gives relief to fuel efficiency norms for smaller vehicles. Saloni, could you come in?
Yes, sir. So this story is about the automobile industry. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency (BEE) has introduced special relief for small cars for the first time and has offered incentives for flex fuel in strong hybrid vehicles. It has revised its 2024 draft fuel efficiency norms while making these changes. So this revision comes after an intense and bitter debate within the automobile industry. In the new draft, the Corporate Average Fuel Efficiency, which is abbreviated as CAFE, these norms have mentioned small cars separately for the first time. And Maruti Suzuki, which is India's largest producer of small cars, stands to benefit the most with these new norms. A petrol car is considered a small car if it weighs up to 909 kg. It has an engine of 1200 cc or less and is not longer than 4000 mm. Mostly entry level hatchbacks and compact sedans. Earlier, this Maruti Suzuki had put its relief request, following which the BEE issued its revised draft on Thursday. CAFE norms set the average carbon dioxide CAFE, that is CAFE. These norms set the average carbon dioxide emission or fuel efficiency targets that a car maker's fleet must meet. They are measured in grams of the gas emitted per kilometer for each vehicle. So these small cars get special treatment. On top of carbon dioxide savings achieved through certified technologies, they can subtract an extra 3 gram per kilometer from their declared emission. However, the new draft also caps the benefit. It states that no small car model shall be permitted to claim a cumulative reduction exceeding 9 gram per kilometer of carbon dioxide in any reporting period. This ensures fairness and prevents exaggerated savings. So the new draft states mainly four things. First, for strong hybrid cars, a full volume derogation factor of 2 is declared. Second, the carbon neutrality factor is introduced for cleaner fuels and hybrids. Third, flex fuel strong hybrid cars get 22.3% lower carbon dioxide under CNF. Lastly, stakeholders are to submit feedback on the revised draft norms within 21 days. What do you think, sir?
Okay. For one, larger cars are big guzzlers of fuel, and so fuel efficiency norms should be stricter for larger cars. Smaller cars use less fuel, so don't be so strict about smaller cars. Secondly, don't make it expensive for the small man who buys a small car. So, well, it's a cumulatively, it may not be the best solution for environment, but take all factors taken together, it seems to be a step in the right direction. Thanks, Saloni. Very useful. And that takes me to the last part of today's session, and that is a discussion on whatever comments and questions that come in. But before I go there, my usual reminders. Please click the subscribe button if you have not clicked it already. Click the like button. That helps us immensely in our algorithms with YouTube. And the third one is please tell all your friends about us, because that's the way we can grow faster. And that takes me to the comments that come in. The first comment is obviously about agriculture. Is the government being hypocritical about protecting farmers' interests? Of course it is. It was hypocritical in the 3 farm laws also, which got pushed aside in the face of farmer agitations. It wanted the farmers to sell through an electronic mandi without requiring Food Corporation of India to purchase its procurements through the mandi. Why do you have a different norm for the largest purchaser and a different norm for smaller purchasers? And right now, why are you importing grain? Why are you importing pulses? After 70 years of agriculture, can't you work out a system where the farmer gets a reasonable rate of return? Can't you fix the prices so that imports are discouraged and the farmer becomes stronger? You've done with the oil seeds. You've done that with pulses also. And now there's a move to allow certain kinds of imports of even dairy products from the United States. India's penchant for imports is frightening. It's killing India. Anyway, take the second question. And the second question is, will the fuel efficiency norm make vehicles cheaper? Maybe yes. Or let's put it differently. The fuel efficiency norms, revised ones, will not make smaller vehicles more expensive. They may not become cheaper, but they'll certainly not become as much more expensive had the new norms being kicked in, being pushed through, and they became they were implemented. And there's a third question: how do we get states to improve their capex allocation? Well, the best way is to penalize states and not give them revenue expenditure till the capex is met. But that will mean that the governments may not be able to pay its salaries and may not be able to pay its bills, and they'll have an excuse not to pay these bills because capex is pending. Well, let's see. Everyone has their own games to play. It needs education. It needs courts to step in when allocation of capex is not done quickly and efficaciously. But yes, that takes me to the end of today's session. Thanks for being with us. It's good to have you. And yes, do remember this is the end of the week. You have a weekend coming along, which means I shall see you 2 days later. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you once again on Monday. Take care. Good luck for today.